The story you are about to hear begins in a quiet village in the Philippines, where the air smells like fresh soil, warm sunshine, and strong tradition. In this village lived men and women who had built their homes, bridges, tools, and even furniture out of a single material they trusted more than anything else: bamboo. To them, bamboo was not just a plant. It was a partner, a protector, a backbone of their daily lives. But far away, across the oceans, in parts of Europe filled with tall steel buildings and giant concrete roads, some engineers had a very different belief. They saw bamboo as nothing more than a weak stick, something used only for toys, baskets, or decoration. How can a plant like that build anything strong? They laughed. Impossible. But what they did not know was that the truth was coming. And when it hit them, it hit hard. The story begins with a young Filipino engineer named Marco. He was quiet, smart, and always curious. Ever since he was a child, he watched his grandfather build strong houses from bamboo. During storms, when metal roofs flew off and concrete walls cracked, their bamboo home stood firm like a soldier guarding its family. Marco grew up wondering, if bamboo is so strong, why don't more people use it? Years later, he became one of the top engineering students in his university. His dream was simple but bold. He wanted to prove to the world that bamboo was not a weak plant. It was a super material, but he knew that many foreign engineers would never believe him, not unless they saw the truth with their own eyes. One day, Marco received an email from a European engineering team. They were traveling to Asia to look for new building materials for a special eco-friendly project. They wanted something strong, cheap, light, and renewable. They had tested everything: steel, aluminum, recycled plastic, even special European wood. But nothing fully met their requirements. Then someone told them about bamboo. At first they laughed. Bamboo? Like the plant pandas eat? Are you serious? It will snap like a toothpick. But curiosity won. They decided to fly to the Philippines to test this magic grass. When Marco heard the news, he felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was his chance. But what if something went wrong? What if bamboo failed during the test? What if the Europeans laughed at him? Still, he prepared. The European team arrived on a hot afternoon. They wore shiny safety helmets, thick boots, and serious faces. With them came expensive machines, computers, and tools that looked like they came straight out of a science lab. The Filipino villagers watched them with wide eyes. They had never seen engineers who dressed like astronauts before. The European leader, Engineer Schneider, greeted Marco with a firm handshake. "So," he said with a smirk, "show us this famous bamboo of yours." The group followed Marco into a workshop. Inside were thick bamboo poles, dried and cured under the sun. Some were almost as hard as steel. Marco explained how bamboo grows fast, how each pole is hollow but incredibly strong, how its fibers are arranged in a way that makes it bend instead of break. The European engineers nodded politely, but deep inside, they still didn't believe him. The first test began. The Europeans placed a large bamboo pole on a heavy machine designed to test pressure. One engineer whispered to another, "It will break in seconds." Another chuckled, "Maybe even faster." The machine began pressing down, slowly, steadily. The bamboo bent, and bent, and bent. But it did not break. The European engineers leaned forward, their eyes widened. "What? That's impossible." "Increase the pressure." The machine pressed harder. The bamboo groaned, it flexed, it resisted, but still it refused to snap. Engineer Schneider scratched his head. This must be a mistake." "Try another pole." So they did. The second one lasted even longer. The third pole survived so much pressure that one of the European engineers shouted, "This is stronger than some of our European timber." But that was just the beginning. Marco took them to a construction site where workers were building a small bridge, entirely out of treated bamboo. The Europeans watched in silence as the workers tied beams, locked joints, and climbed up and down the framework with speed and confidence. "Are these bridges safe?" one engineer asked. Marco smiled. "Go ahead, test it." They placed weights on the bridge. Heavy weights, very heavy weights. The bamboo bridge held perfectly. Then Marco invited them to walk across. Some of the Europeans were hesitant. What if the bridge collapsed? But eventually they stepped forward. To their shock, the bridge didn't just hold, it felt stable. "Almost too stable. This is unbelievable," Schneider whispered. But again, the truth was not done hitting them. Next, Marco guided them into a bamboo house. The air inside felt cool, even though the sun outside was burning hot. The Europeans looked around, confused. "No air conditioning?" "No," Marco replied. "Bamboo breathes." He explained how bamboo absorbs heat slowly, releases it gently, and stays cool naturally. He showed them beams that had survived typhoons. walls that had survived earthquakes, roofs that had outlasted metal. In a powerful moment, Marco said, "Bamboo bends so it does not break. That is why it survives storms that destroy buildings made of stronger materials." The Europeans exchanged looks. They had never heard anything like this. But the final test was the one that shocked them the most. Marco brought them to a disaster simulation center. Here, engineers test materials by shaking them, smashing them, and pushing them to their limits. The Europeans had brought their own material samples, European wood and lightweight steel. They placed these materials into the machines. First, the European wood was tested. Under strong shaking, the wood cracked. Next, the steel beam. It held longer, but eventually, it bent so much that it became unusable. Then came the bamboo. The machine shook violently. The room trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. But the bamboo bent and bent and bent, then straightened back into shape. It didn't break, it didn't crack, it didn't warp. The European engineers were speechless. One whispered, How is this possible?" Another said, "This material is incredible." Schneider shook his head slowly. "We were wrong, very wrong." Suddenly, everything they believed about advanced engineering changed. Bamboo was not a weak plant. It was a natural masterpiece, a gift from nature that had been quietly proving its strength for thousands of years. But the biggest shock came when Marco explained one last fact. Bamboo grows back after it is cut. It grows fast, up to 1 meter in a single day. It stores carbon, protects the soil, and heals the land. It is strong, cheap, renewable, and safe. It is not just material, it is the future. This time, the entire European team stood silent. No more laughter, no more jokes, no more doubt. Instead, they applauded. They shook Marco's hand. They thanked the villagers. They agreed to include bamboo in their project. And before leaving, Schneider said something that made the Filipino workers smile proudly. "We came here thinking bamboo was weak. We leave knowing it is one of the strongest materials on earth." From that day, the Europeans carried a lesson they would never forget. Sometimes the most powerful things in the world do not shout. They simply stand tall and wait for the world to open its eyes. And in that moment, bamboo, once laughed at, finally earned the respect it deserved. A plant that bends but never breaks. A material that protects lives. A Filipino treasure that shocked the world. And the truth? It didn't just hit them, it hit them hard. A plant that bends but never breaks. A material that protects lives. A Filipino treasure that shocked the world. But this story is only one of many. Across the globe, hidden discoveries, surprising truths, and untold stories are waiting to be revealed. Stories that will open your eyes, challenge what you believe, and make you see the world in a whole new way. So if you enjoyed this journey and you want more stories like this, stories of innovation, culture, mystery, and powerful human achievements, then make sure you subscribe to Holistic News Expo. Because the next story might surprise you even more than this one.